I want to do a spoiler for all. We have some beautiful introducers who are going to talk about our writers, and I'm not going to steal any of their lines, but I just want to say it's really special to bring these two writers here tonight who have both deep roots and vital presences in Cleveland and beyond in many different arts and writing communities, and whose work is in dialogue with each other. And it's just very special to have Sam and Julie here, and all of you. Little round of thanks. Thank you to the CSU Poetry Center team, Carol and Zach and Joey and Kristen, Ari and Xan. Xan is our new fellow. Welcome to Xan. I did want to clap. Let's clap. Whenever anyone starts clapping, I'm like, let's do it. Then, I don't know if you wanted it, but it happened. Also, thank you to the OMFA, who is our partner in House Supporter Series, and Mary Benninger and Mike Geither and David Todd. Mike is usually here, but he's officiating a wedding tonight at the Hofbräu House, he said. Is that real? And thank you to MaxBax and to Amy. You guys should all visit Amy after the reading and buy some books. Got a lot of good stuff over there, and thank you for always coming and supporting our series. We're going to hear from Joey Rooney, who will introduce Sam Hayes, and then we'll hear from Xan Phillips, who will introduce Julie Patton. And at the very end, I'll come up and probably say like 2 more things a little incoherently, because I'm very happy at the end of the reading. So I will turn it over to Joey to introduce our first reader.
About 40 pages into Samuel Ace's essayistic I Want to Start by Saying, our author recounts traveling back to Cleveland and there observing his father's childhood home and bedroom, not least an old telephone on a desk. Ace writes, quote, I want to start by saying that in the center of the telephone's dial was a handwritten number that began with the letters YE. Now, this observation may simply be acknowledging the mid-century American practice of prefixing letters to the starts of phone numbers. The letters, like later area codes, indicating where the call recipient lived. But, like all the repeated I want to start statements in this book, and like a line of poetry perhaps, this statement seems to be doing multiple things at once. The prominence given to the center of the telephone's dial serves to link this observation to all of Ace's other meditations on that which is central and that which is peripheral in a life, in a family, in a city like Cleveland or Shaker Heights, past and present. In a sense, because our author has diagnosed monocular vision, all of the visual observations I'm offered here are a negotiation between the central and the peripheral. My left eye scans the perimeters, he writes, while my right eye is busy seeing. Furthermore, the combination of letters and digits in the telephone number may reflect our author's preoccupation throughout the book with converting words into numbers and vice versa. The book even ends with an arithmetic tallying of the words contained therein, a word count, and with an interpretation of what that tally means. It means, quite simply, lucky. This numerology of luck, of value, is perhaps reminiscent of the ancient Jewish practice of gematria, whereby numerical values were assigned to words and names, even the tetragrammaton, the unspoken name of God. Thus, for Ace, mere mathematical conversion becomes meaningful transformation, and transformation becomes transfiguration. Something glorious, something mystical, something trans. Not for nothing does Emerson Whitney write in praise of the book, quote, Sam Ace takes on the phrase, I want to start, as metronome that turns daily reflections into mediations on luck, absence, and value. This book is trans at its core, end quote. Finally, the handwritten letters Y and E, which you'll forgive me for verbalizing together as ye, as in the Middle English plural of you, might at a stretch identify those to whom and for whom Ace has started saying all these many things. You all, as in us. Ultimately, it is we, the readers, who are the lucky ones. The question then is ours. Will we choose to pick up the telephone to answer Ace's call? And what will we start by saying in response? Samuel Ace is the recipient of the Australia Lesbian Writer Award and the Firecracker Alternative Book Award in Poetry. He is also a repeat finalist for both the Lambda Literary Award and the National Poetry Series. Other titles by him include Our Weather, Our Sea, Meet Me There, Normal Sex and Home in 3 Days, Don't Wash, and Stealth with poet Maureen Seaton, with whom he also wrote 2 chapbooks and a forthcoming work, Portals, due in 2025 from Ravenna Press. In addition to being a writer of poetry and prose, Sam is also a visual and sound artist. In an online interview from several years ago, he speaks of, quote, using repetition and other sonic/musical elements to create layers of meaning in his poetry. For this reason, it would perhaps not be inappropriate to suggest that I Want to Start by Saying, with its uncompromising commitment to generation through repetition, would be nearly as at home in a poetry series as in an essay series of books. There's a slight joke there, yeah. Those who know. Indeed, in that same online interview, Sam coins for himself a term that could just as easily be applied to his latest publication, bihomeo, which in context refers to his at times itinerant existence in Cleveland and Tucson and Western Mass, etc. So, would all of you please join me in welcoming back to Cleveland again, Sam Ace.
Thank you again, and thank all of you for coming, and hi Julie. This is really a reunion. I grew up here in Cleveland and left to go to college and haven't lived here since. Lived on many places, but not in Cleveland. But it, as I say somewhere in here, there's a particular smell here. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, when I get off the airplane, I say, yeah, this is home. So, it's really wonderful to be here, and I want to thank Cleveland State and Carol. It's the most magnificent editor, Carol Hagel and Hilary and Zach. It's just been a wonderful publishing experience. I can't tell you how rare and really wonderful that is. I'm going to start at the beginning. I want to start by saying I hear the filter in the turtle tank like a fountain. I want to start by saying like a fountain in the middle of a field of wildflowers. I want to start by saying that today would have been my father's 84th birthday, that he died 18 days before his 79. I want to start by saying that he was young and that death took him by surprise. I want to start by saying that my mother died 9 months ago, less than 4.5 years after my father. I want to start by saying the beginning of this sentence. I want to start by saying that a child could have been born in that time. I want to start by saying that a whole year has gone by since my godchild's birth. I want to start by saying on Canada Day, I want to start by saying the fireworks on the porch of a former riverboat inn at Hatfield Point. I want to start by saying the fireworks mark the day. I want to start by saying I celebrate my godchild, not the nation. I want to start by saying my godchild now says bird and boat. I want to start by saying that both my sisters have children who are mostly grown. I want to start by saying I do not know them, the children. I want to start by saying I knew them up until my niece was 9 and my nephew was 7. I want to start by saying when my nephew was 2, he discovered a raccoon while looking out the window of the house in Austerlitz. He pointed and said, "Coo, coo," long before we could identify what he was seeing. I want to start by saying it began to rain last night. It's now past noon the next day and still raining, soft and constant, hidden under the sound of the water filter. I want to start by saying it's difficult to come to the page. I want to start by saying that I can no longer find my father's last voice message. I want to start by saying that today I read about a German soldier who destroyed a small French town toward the end of World War II. I want to start by saying that the soldier tortured and killed nearly every person living in that town. I want to start by saying that 75 years later, he is just now being tried for murder. I want to start by saying, I want to call my father. I want to start by saying, his voice might still be alive on an old cell phone buried in a box somewhere in my closet. I want to start by saying, an archive. I want to start by saying, how to retrieve the past. I want to start by saying, there are so many versions. I want to start by saying that my closet is filled with intentions. I feel them every morning when I take out my clothes, get dressed, and close the door. I want to start by saying that the intentions are always waiting. I want to start by saying that last night 9 people were murdered at an AME church in Charleston. I want to start by saying that yesterday, US soldiers in Nevada operating drones over Afghanistan murdered a family of 5. I want to start by saying my father would have cried watching Obama sing Amazing Grace. I want to start by saying that I cried, but what are tears? I want to start by saying that I cry whenever I see a baby being born. I want to start by saying on TV or in a movie. I want to start by saying it feels like a deep and shredding grief. I want to start by saying on TV. I want to start by saying, will I ever witness a baby being born? I want to start by saying, I want to hear my father's voice. I want to start by saying that I think through my fingers, my shoulders, my eyes when they are closed. I want to start by saying it's the movement of my hands on a keyboard that I love, not the residue or the aftermath. I want to start by saying not even the words. I want to start by saying that I am not, I skipped something I wanted to read. I want to start by saying that somewhere I have just passed 730 words. Auspicious because 7 plus 3 plus 0 equals 10 equals 1, which is a lucky number. I want to start by saying that somewhere I have passed 3,561 characters. Auspicious because 3 plus 5 plus 6 plus 1 equals 15 equals 6, which is also a lucky number. I have checked. I want to start by saying that when I pump gas or consider an address as a place to live, I want the total to equal 1, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, or 12. I want to start by saying that I constantly add numbers inside my head. I want to start by saying if I should delete the first 6 words, they are probably unnecessary. I want to start by saying that I'd like to hold on to them for a while. They are lucky. I want to start by saying that I am in love with someone who has a chronic illness. I want to start by saying that I research fecal transplants, pituitary gland tumors, Lyme disease, ME, CFS, antibiotics, immune boosters, immunosuppressants, antifungal agents, magnetic therapies, hormone deficiencies, gluten-free carbohydrates, ashwagandha, stevia, and Japanese knotweed. I want to start by saying that this morning I advised my love to swallow his spit in order to strengthen his immune system. I want to start by saying I need to stop giving advice. I want to start by saying I am not living in my home. I want to start by saying that I have possessions in a small apartment in Tucson, Arizona. Also in a 5x5 indoor storage facility, also in Tucson, also in my ex-wife's garage, also piled inside a 9,000 square foot warehouse in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I also have a small shelf of books and files, an AeroPress coffee maker, 2 stainless steel salad servers, a stainless steel ladle, a nearly 6-foot-long drawing I drew and gave to my parents for their anniversary almost 40 years ago, and a large gouache painted by my mother with vertical blue and black brushstrokes that seen together look something like a dancing woman. I want to start by saying that several drawers of clothes are in Florence, Massachusetts, where I am now. The gouache and the drawing are all I had from my mother's last apartment. I want to start by saying, what is home? I want to start by saying that my love is lying upstairs on a bed, which is on the floor of a bedroom turned office squeezed between some shelves and a desk amid piles of books that are mostly not ours. I want to start by saying that the walls are wrapped in cheerful yellow beadboard and the branches of a large maple tree are visible through one window in the room. I want to start by saying that we are not sleeping on the bed in the master bedroom because something in that room makes my love nauseous and the too soft mattress hurts my back. I want to start by saying that my love dreams of returning west to live near his family. I want to start by saying that it's still raining. I want to start by saying the green of New England hangs very heavy today. I want to start by saying that I worry we will be moving to a house with a zip code that adds up to 16 and an address that adds up to 8. I want to start by saying someone once told me that the number 16 is unlucky. I want to start by saying that maybe it's not all bad because together the zip code and the street address add up to 24, which equals 6, a good number. I want to start by saying that this morning I looked at houses for sale in Hudson, New York, Cheticamp, Nova Scotia, and Tucson, Arizona. I want to start by saying that the number 8 is sacred. I'm going to read another short section. There's a lot in this book about various places, but there is a lot in here about Cleveland and where I grew up, and so I thought I'd read a little bit about Cleveland since I'm here. I want to start by saying that when I was 6, my father's parents moved to the country. I want to start by saying at Sunday brunch, my grandfather said they wanted to get away from downtown. I want to start by saying what that meant. I want to start by saying to live around white people. I want to start by saying that when I was 10, my family moved to a Tudor-style house in Shaker Heights, not far from downtown Cleveland. I want to start by saying my grandparents did not approve. The house was too close to downtown. I want to start by saying that my grandparents' new house sat on 3 acres of lawn. I want to start by saying 3 large weeping willows stood close together in a shallow depression near the middle of the backyard to help with drainage, my grandfather explained. I want to start by saying that every person who lived on our new street in Shaker Heights was also white. I want to start by saying 1964. I want to start by saying that I believed 10 was the best age. I had finally arrived at 2 digits and 1 plus 0 equals 1. I want to start by saying that the brothers across the street played outside with their grandfather's rifle from World War II. The stock was made from honey-colored wood. I want to start by saying I loved the sound of its metal bolt when it turned and clicked into place. I want to start by saying that a black Ford Thunderbird with a porthole window sat in their driveway. I want to start by saying the mansions at the end of the street backed up to a golf course. I want to start by saying the sand traps on the golf course became trenches for our war games. The golfers were our enemies. I want to start by saying that we got kicked off the golf course almost every time we played there. I want to start by saying there was a rumor about the Van Swearingen brothers who built Shaker Heights. I want to start by saying single beds in the same room. I want to start by saying the brothers never married. I speculate. I want to start by saying when they woke up in the morning, did they share their dreams? I want to start by saying that the Van Swearingens wrote restrictive covenants into their plans. I want to start by saying that in the 50s and 60s, Jews and blacks moved into Shaker Heights. I want to start by saying that the press said they were welcomed. I want to start by saying they were not welcomed. I want to start by saying the language of my childhood, what was said around the dinner table. I want to start by saying lost. I want to start by saying something specific. I want to start by saying 3139 Montgomery Road, a bigger house than the one we moved from, but smaller compared to the mansions at the end of the street. I want to start by saying another 16. Oh no. I want to start by saying that the woman who cleaned my ex-wife's house told her that the number 16 was dangerous. I want to start by saying my ex was superstitious. I want to start by saying we shared certain beliefs. I want to start by saying that when I was 10 and a half, my mother forbade me to wear jeans or to play with the boys across the street. I want to start by saying a website says, quote, the city and its residents made national headlines in the 1950s when they re-examined years of restrictive covenants, unquote. Before that, no Jews, no blacks. I want to start by saying that I attended Malvern School in Shaker Heights. I want to start by saying in the 70s, quote, racial balance continued in Shaker schools through a voluntary busing program. I want to start by saying that despite the claims of this public history, no one in my 4th grade class was Black. I want to start by saying when the Jews and Blacks moved in, the WASPs moved out. I want to start by saying dinner table explanations. I want to start by saying the remaining WASPs lived in the big houses at the end of the street, the houses that backed up to the golf courses. I want to start by saying we thought their backyards belonged to us. I want to start by saying that I thought 3139 was an English tutor, but really, when a real estate website says French Normandy, in the photos, the interior looks utterly changed, a redone kitchen, silk curtains, a closed-in porch. I hardly recognize any of it except for the placement of the couch in the den where I threw up the eggs my father tried to feed me one morning when I had the flu. Perhaps also the pachysandra beds my mother planted in the front yard. I want to start by saying that today 2 years' worth of taxes equal what my parents paid for that house in 1963. I want to start by saying I sometimes think about returning to Cleveland. I want to start by saying the poets Russell Atkins and Julie Patton lived there. I want to start by saying that to get to school, I walked 2 blocks across South Woodland to the end of Montgomery Road. I want to start by saying that one Sunday morning, I decided to teach my younger sister to ride a bicycle without training wheels. I want to start by saying that we took our Shetland sheepdog with us when we went outside. I want to start by saying that his name was Beaver. Beaver was a year old and loved to herd everything, including his humans, including cars. I want to start by saying that when we were leaving the house, I could not find a leash. I want to start by saying that when we reached South Woodland, Beaver ran into the street to chase a car. Almost immediately, he was hit. I want to start by saying killed. I want to start by saying the car stopped. A man got out and carried Beaver over to the sidewalk. I want to start by saying I panicked, ran home to get someone. I want to start by saying I left my little sister with Beaver and her bicycle on the sidewalk. I want to start by saying that after Beaver died, I could not cry. I want to start by saying shame. I want to start by saying horror. I want to start by saying my mother in tears. I want to start by saying she did not yell at me. I want to start by saying I could not sleep. I want to start by saying my parents brought me downstairs. I want to start by saying that I sat on the floor in the living room. I want to start by saying they sat above me on a couch with drinks, vodka on ice, scotch on ice. I could not look at them. I could not cry. I want to start by saying that the Huff neighborhood of Cleveland burned the July before I went to junior high school. A white bar owner had refused a Black customer a drink of water. I want to start by saying that my mother began to talk about buying a gun. I want to start by saying that my parents argued about this loudly and often. I want to start by saying, what if? I want to start by saying, like when she threw dishes against the wall. I want to start by saying, often. I want to start by saying, if she came after me. I want to start by saying, would she do it by a gun? I want to start by saying there were riots for weeks, 4 people were killed, all of them Black. I want to start by saying when I was 12, the city was on fire. I want to start by saying that the history I learned in school had no bones. I want to start by saying that the teachers at school did not talk to us about the city that was on fire, like it wasn't our city or anyone's, or that it didn't exist. I want to start by saying that every day we had French class. I want to start by saying that when I lived in Shaker Heights, I often dreamt of dungeons and torture. I woke up sexually aroused. I want to start by saying I smelled something rotten. I want to start by saying the deep orange skies of the monsoon. I want to start by saying we have returned to Tucson. I want to start by saying that while our friends are away, we are taking care of their little house, their dark rooms and heavy wood benches. I want to start by saying I fall asleep in my love's arms. I want to start by saying I think about waking up alone. I wonder if that might be the future. I want to start by saying the yellow butterfly bush, the light magenta bougainvillea, and the deep red flowers on the barrel cactus. I want to start by saying the smell of creosote. I want to start by saying that at first our arrival felt dusty. I want to start by saying the desire to buy a house on the second day. I want to start by saying that my friend S told me my boyfriend looked like Jesus. I want to start by saying I found a Jesus on a prayer card at the mission. I want to start by saying that the Jesus on the prayer card was white and very thin with long blonde hair and a blonde beard. I want to start by saying that my love does resemble the prayer card Jesus. I want to start by saying gay Jesus. I want to start by saying at the mission I also found an 8.5 by 11-inch holographic portrait of Jesus and Mary. I want to start by saying that tilting the card one way shows Jesus. I want to start by saying that tilting the card the other way shows Mary. I want to start by saying that holding the card steady in the middle shows Jesus and Mary merged together. I want to start by saying trans Jesus, trans Mary. Oops.
Hi. My name is Xan Forest Phillips, and it is my honor to introduce Julie Ezelle Patton tonight. Pinnate poems, innate psalms, writing on boughs, stalks, and stems. Julie Ezelle Patton's poetry is a social and ecological practice. These pinnate poems, an invitation to arrange or gather on the same axis, to bloom together and access our hands. Her innate psalms built within a sonic urgency, with the knowledge that there is a hunger for lyric, ears that need sound, sound that needs space. Quote, moving back and forth between visual impressions of sound to live recitation with its sonorous peaks and plains and valleys, Patton writes, I seldom look before I leap, unquote. And when she does, her poetics live in uncommon and immersive containers, the language itself balmy with the heat of connotation. Sound is counter-narrative and quip. Patton's poetry and intertwined performative practices engage in a continual act of unfolding, of deep and irreverent play, writes Leanne Brown in Patton's feature this month in Chicago Review. It's what has secured Patton's voice in my head. I hear her language. If I'm lying, I'm flying, and I ain't seen a bird all day. In this poetic, it is of utmost importance to shirk the muzzle of earnestness and scale. Julie Ezelle Patton writes like no other. She creates immersive books, books you can enter and inhabit. As a core fellow at the Houston Museum of Fine Arts in the early 80s, Patton created room-sized installations. She applied ink to paper using her body, crawling, and likens this action in her interview with Jennifer Scapitone in Chicago Review to sweeping. Quote, because when you crawl around or work on the paper with ink, when you throw it up against something, you get the sound implied by the thrust, the rhythm, its prosody, it's the measurement between. Writing on boughs, stalks, and stems. Patton's forms evoke forms, the rituals of her craft interlaced with what is viable. If we want, quote, if we want to become true humans, we become instruments sensitive enough for the forms to hone us, Patton says during a recent collection study for the Roberts Institute of Art, quoting the Tiwa elder Beautiful Painted Arrow. She sings the last words, hone us, emphasizing continuous instrumentation of self. At the architectural intersection of Patton's practices is a blueprint for living through sound and color and hospitality. The building, A space and project described by Patton as both noun and verb is the site of her living architecture, a book building in the form of a 6-flat apartment complex turned artist co-op that harbors installations as well as everyday life. A space that exists with no distinction between living and creation, ever forthcoming. The building in Glenville, Cleveland, projects that the walls of a building are its pages, and the artist's life itself is what fills them. Julie Ezelle Patton is a poet, visual artist, performer, sculptor, and permaculturist. She received her BFA from Antioch College in 1979. Patton's poetics take the form of scrolls, extended texts, limited edition work, performances, and site-specific installations. She is the author of several poetry collections, including Teething on Type, Using Blue to Get Black, and Writing with Crooked Ink. Patton's work has appeared in I'll Drown My Book, Conceptual Writing by Women, Sarah Riggs's The Nerve of Pestle, About Place Journal, Rust Belt Tales, and Cecilia Bacuna's Sound Kipu. Patton has received a New York Foundation for the Arts Poetry Fellowship, a Mellon Learning Fellowship, and Acadia Arts Foundation grant, and was a finalist for the National Poetry Series. Patton is also a Doanbrook Watershed Hero. She has taught at Teachers and Writers Collaborative, Learning Through Art, at the Guggenheim Museum, Case Western Reserve University, and Nairobi University. Her collection of creative projects, Jaywalking Through the Alphabet, 1979 through the present, debuts with Nightboat Books in 2025. Patton currently resides and works in Cleveland, Ohio, where she continues to advocate for the artistic legacies of Teresa Rainey, Leonard Maynard, and her mother, Virgie Ezelle Patton. Please join me in welcoming Julie Ezelle Patton.
I look like I just got off the Greyhound bus. I feel like that was amazing. Thank you. I don't know how you get kind people. That is sublime. Really, really beautiful. So I'm going to just get dressed here. So, where are we? Books galore. It's good to see you. Oh, I think we're going to level myself. This is actually my first presentation of my work in Cleveland, ever. Thank you, Sam. And it's a real honor to be here with you. And in the spirit of home, I'm going to take a cue from you. I don't have, is this being recorded? Oh, that's too bad. No, what's I going to say? I am in books. I like to create installations in books where I gather the material I am exploring at any given moment, but everything is always in flux because of that. And it was interesting to read the idea of being a visual artist and at a younger age, much younger age, because spaces like this, literary events, I discovered when I returned back to New York City, that they offer an expansive space of imagining and participation and community in a way that you're in a visual art situation, you're often solo. Sure, you may create in a solo context, but a lot of the work that is up on the page is decided in the moment, in moments like this, or one might scribble something and then read it, and then after the reading, other thoughts jump into the text, and that's why it keeps getting bloated and falling back, one of the reasons. Primer. Should have seen the lake today. Water so still, almost as if skies conjured up a mirror to see itself. Birds shucking and jiving off a sudden encounter with themselves. Take off on blue notes, inked in conversation silhouette. Mother-daughter tit for tat and peekaboo. Guess who? Blue in interview, using blue to get black. What kind of blue you use to get water, mama? Watercolor or the color of water? Water as in wet. Terra H2O, oil or watercolor. Any medium will do. Blue depends on the subject matter. Blue is the subject, but doesn't the medium matter, mutter? Not really. Let's see. Blue. Well, take that blue over there. Watercolor as a carrier of water. Probably add white to vary the tones. Probably your favorite. Tone it down to get that blue. You could almost use cobalt blue, pure except to vary the tones. Ultramarine too. That's even darker. Yes, but still a truish hue. The blue you use depends on other colors in the painting. Yes, the rest of the image determines which blue varies from moment to moment. Cobalt, ultramarine, cerulean has a tinge of green. There are other blues I could use. Primary of all the blues, most things I do seem to call for that kind of blue. And if I'm going blue for miles around, that kind of blue, it's in response to Ace Sam's, John Coltrane, Love Supreme, Love Supreme. Love Supreme says, for 1 minute, starting with other colors in the pain. Is this real? This is real. Yes. Kind of blue, blood. Very true to me as a medium, blue, you need a medium blue, green tween. I'm looking at this color on TV in the background. Why you crack at that paint and look at TV at the same time, you boob tube blue? Because water at a distance gets darker or lighter, just add streaks. I use that blue for figures, apply it to a probable cause. Yes, I do, all the time, especially black figures. I've done figures using blue for the undertones because our skin, when you look at M, I equal in to have more in, and they're in too, and lacks more you, but sometimes here's blue in their skin too. Also violet, a tinge of hue blue in their skin too. Juju blue lets you use blue to get black. It's what's black. Pale color. Height people. Height. I never liked to use, being used by colored language. It's one thing to be called such a thing on your birth certificate. It's another thing to claim that it's true. A blood bluish, how you imblue it, depending on the intensity of the light surrounding things. There's a violet blue that can come out in brown skin. Sometimes I add a little bit of, well, when I use the blues. Even if it's of mixed colors, I put a bit of black in it to bring it down. Gray the blue, or blue the gray. Otherwise, use orange. It's opposite for changing blues to gray the blues. Arrive at the right tone, then go after value. The darker you pit a bit of black or umber don't have to be black. Pit a bit of black, did I say? So many variations. All those earth colors you could use with dim. So the lag figures in this series involve blue to bring out the contours and highlight of all those figures. Definitely blue, using blue to get black. You know, I use blue to make it similar like black is blue. Anyway, if you make it black, it's a deep ultramarine, ultramarine, you get a richer black. Ultramarine, put blue in the black, use your deeper blues, and I burn umber red to get a deep black. You can even add purple dioxide as other form. I remember it depends on what you want to see through. The color beneath people through maple yellow, white maple yellows, limoncello. It's just a natural color. Natural, I mean to say neutral. Depending on the tone, you want to think blue, think on tone as in high or low image. Purple can be blue or red, even pink is red, is violet, like a background color. Okay, but for background color, for people, violet or violent, perps can be people too. Purple, and mixture red and blue. So take with an extension of the blues peeping through. Thank you.
Julie and I thought we would do a little improvisation.
Yeah.
You up for it?
Yeah, you start the music and I will follow.
All right. I'm going to...
Don't pay attention to me. You're going to set the stage. Okay.
I'm just going to read.
I'm going to end by saying, you just keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I told them where to cut to make me brother. Where to cut to make me son. Where to cut to get a key.
Where to pass out and stay on your feet, walking around the room. You find your sister in a chair, in the gown she wore and pregnant.
I want to start by saying today we drove from Chicago to Cleveland. I want to start by saying yesterday was my parents' anniversary.
I want to let you know that my mother even made a bronze of her paint tube and brush.
I want to start by saying we are staying at Julie Patton's high up in the tree with Janice Lowe and RJ, Paul, and Roche. I want to start by saying that Julie's house has many houses. I want to start by saying that Julie and I both grew up in Cleveland.
From beyond. From beyond. From beyond, say. My mother had a friend named Julie. No, I'm not named after her. She just turned 90 about a week ago. And she was born in the Hungarian ghetto. And she is still here. She lives in Shaker Heights, University Heights now. And her mother, Mama, stitched up people in the Hungarian resistance. And that is a drawing of hers.
I thought I had a soldier's place, but it was a figment signature, hardly a support for this body, red-lipped and blushed. Not even a drowning, an iron boot, a faction of towns and carnivals.
My brother Cleve, or Butchie as we call him, he thinks out of two sides of his brain, but sometimes I go to get him out of the hospital for a day. We take a spin of his memory around the city streets, and it's practically photographic. This is a photo I took of him about 40 years ago. And these are the paintings that have so much blue in them.
I want to start by saying my mother's kitchen. I want to start by saying burnt orange wallpaper and burnt orange cushions on sarin and chairs. I want to start by saying I can trace my mother's taste on a path through Danish modern into the pages of the Knoll catalogs. Mine too.
I wonder how the eye talks to the ear. My mother sculpted at Caramel in the 50s and 60s. And she painted in the kitchen. And one day she asked me to clean the chicken. And I was all of 8 years old. I never eaten a chicken. And I never did after that moment. I can still see the kitchen sink with all the colors streaming down it, and that gunk that you're supposed to pull out of the chicken and the slime that comes with it, kind of sculpture in itself. So that's when you really need to rinse off the animal within, passing squares around, quadruple.
I want to start by saying green. I want to start by saying moss and birds. I want to start by saying my mother's kitchen.
I want to say that when I first started coming back to Cleveland around 2000, my mother painted me in the very coat that I wore when I got off of the airplane, bringing or slinging my two cats, Smokey and Puddingham.
I want to start by saying that we went to the same museums, Julie and I. I want to start by saying, where do paintings get made? For that matter, words. I want to start by saying Virgin and my mother shared at least one institution.
When I was listening to you a while back, you mentioned something about, what was it, thinking that all of the golf course and the properties in the back were yours. I thought the same thing about the Cleveland Museum of Art. Kind of backed up to my backyard, or at least we had the kids in the neighborhood, we ran through it all the time. It was the cut through to get from our house to Euclid, or to take the bus. So when the museum has always talks about not seeing certain kinds of people in the museum, I'm wondering if we're talking about the same place. Remember what 105th and Euclid was like? It was live. When your grandparents wanted to get away from downtown, they were too live, and that was a straight trajectory from the Euclid Avenue entrance out the butt of the museum, and across the green, and to the backyard, to the kitchen with the turpentine dinner.
I want to start by saying the smell of turpentine.
That's probably what was wrong with my stomach today. and curled up in a ball, queasy.
I want to start by saying I aspire to mess.
I make a mess everywhere I go, as you can tell.
I want to start by saying that today the mess is in my bed.
And I'm going to listen to myself, try to avoid talking about the words on the wall. Is this real? This is real. It's surreal. It's too real. And so I have to go back and forth between moments of consciousness, trying to focus on the task at hand, say doing the dishes or running out the back door, fleeing from whatever is haunting our human body, parts, ocean, water, color, or the character of water. My mom did this very delicate flower, and I don't know, I think it was in the 40s or 50s or something. Pigments were different back then. They had less plastic, and I looked up my mother's paintings. They're amazing. It's amazing to think back to that generation. Your mom was born in the 20s?
Early 30s.
Early 30s. My mom in 29.
Yeah, I'd say.
It's kind of scandalous to be a woman artist then, as now, then, transition. Trying to be an artist too. Beware of artists. They mix with all classes of society and are therefore the most dangerous.
So it shifts and shifts again. This mortal body of renewal and disintegration, a race to rush the making of marks, the triple time it takes to run to Paris and back. My mother was a painter, and Julie's mother was a painter, and they did not know each other, as far as I know. But they might have shared many of the same species.
Where did we meet?
New York.
Where did we meet? New York's got a pile of poets.
Downtown at some event we were both at. Belladonna, but it was in New York.
It's always been New York. It's always in Cleveland. It's always a fixed idea of where you're at while flowing. That's what ink does. Places meet at your feet. FEAT. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.